Hello and welcome back to Buckle Up. I'm Harry King and this is the Peugeot e-5008. A more sure statement than ever that Peugeot is aiming to join the premium car brands. But is it any good? Let's talk styling. I've already used the P word, premium, and I think you will agree with me that this is clearly gunning for the German brands with the level of design that has gone into this car. This is a family van, basically. I know it is an SUV, but it's a front-wheel drive, big box, with space for 7 people. That's kind of the whole point. You do not have to go to such lengths with the design for a vehicle like this, and yet Peugeot have absolutely knocked it out of the park. I love how they've resolved the front end, integrating their kind of lion strike lights into the front. Those elements actually run up into the full headlights themselves. I love the body matched grille. These wheels round here at the side, 20 inches. There are 19s available, but they're fabulous, and still a decent amount of sidewall on them as well. I just love the way they look. The new Peugeot, well, not that new. It's been like, what, 4 years, but the refreshed Peugeot badging as well on the front and the sides, which is a really nice premium touch too. Contrasting black roof, black mirror caps, and I really like this, recessed window rubbers, like a Range Rover. Like a Range Rover. In what world? In what world did we think 5 years ago you'd be comparing a Peugeot to a Range Rover? Round the back, it really is the same story. This contrast roof ends with this lovely flash of kind of satin grey in the D pillar, I guess. Even though this is a very boxy shape, it actually still has some style to it. What I do find interesting is, I guess they've made this slightly more aero because they want to sell more EV variants of the 5008. This is the e-5008, but you can just buy a petrol or a hybrid. But because they've made it a bit more aero, it doesn't look as big as the previous generation. But I've checked, it's larger in every dimension, but somehow less intimidating on the road. Peugeot written out in full letters. These rear lights are lovely. Obviously, this all ties in with the general styling of Peugeot's range, but I really like these rear lights. They do a little dance when you turn the car on. Now, this always goes well on camera, but this car is fitted with your classic. That's the dance. This is now unlocked, so I should be able to... Oh! A system that actually works. Very impressive. Open up the boot. And in here, with all 3 rows in place, we find 348 litres of space. Except we don't actually, because a lot of that space is under the false floor here. So actually, this area is probably somewhere around 180 litres. If I lift this up, though, it has little rubbers to stop it wobbling when it's in place, and a little channel for it to fold down into if you want to keep it up. To get into here, there is a tray with your charging cables and stuff in it. However, that doesn't have to live there because there's actually space for it under the seat bases, and because it's in a little tray, you can kind of push it back, and then you have the full amount of room here to use for things. Also, there is space down here under this floor for your parcel shelf when you have all seats in place. It doesn't lock into place, so it's not the best system I've seen, but it's a damn sight better than having to leave it in the garage. Very useful, practical way of having plenty of space behind the third row without this vehicle being too large. You've got to consider the fact that the Ioniq 9, EV9, which are competitors, are 5 metres long. They're a foot longer than this, and yet this still has lots of usable space behind this third row. Now, if I put this back down again and then pull a couple of little tabs here in the centre, I can drop down. Ooh, dear, I hit my head off the ceiling. Drop down these seats, and then I have some amount of space. Stellantis, in their infinite wisdom, have quoted the amount of space behind the third row, or with all the seats folded down, over 2,000 litres. If you're interested, they haven't given me a figure for this, but it is big. I'm going to say in the region of 600 to 700 litres. I went and did a gig in this yesterday and put in all of my guitar equipment, loads and loads and loads of room for it. It all fitted in the boot under the parcel shelf without me having to fold any of the seats down. Let's see though if those third row seats can accommodate a fat adult. Well, I suppose the best place to start is with how easy it actually is to get into the back. So if I flip this round, here we find our middle row seat. All we have to do is pull this lever, the whole thing lifts up, goes forwards on its rails as well, and you're left with quite a decent amount of space to climb in through. I guess the only thing is headroom. It isn't amazing, but actually that's probably easier for me to get into with my stature than some of the much larger cars that we've had on test. If I pop this up, I'm going to immediately say this is not a seat for adults. If I pop this back, and this is pretty much as far forward as the chairs will go and as upright as they'll go, you can see I just have enough knee room, and really they don't have a reasonable amount of knee room in front of me. So children in the third row, the only downside there is there's no ISOFIX back here. There's only ISOFIX on the outer seats in the middle row. And there's also not a huge amount of amenities. So what you're going to have in here is a tween age, a preteen child who can't charge their iPhone or tablet and can't put their, what do kids drink these days? Prime? That's probably like a 5-year-old reference at this point. But anyway, they can't put their Prime anywhere because these cup holders are only about an inch deep. If you look here, their Prime's going to fall over straight away. And there's just a 12-volt socket for charging their tablet. Only one between two. Not ideal. Also, your knees are raised a rather long way off the floor because these seats are sunk right down in order for you to have enough headroom. And even then, I don't quite have enough. Let's see if the middle row is any better. Let's start with the elephant in the room. The observant among you may have noticed that the rear headrests are missing. I don't know why, they just weren't here when the car was dropped off. With that out of the way, let's talk about space in the middle row, baby. So, much more room here for adults than in the back. I've got headroom, I've just about got knee room. This seat is in my driving position. I am 5'11" or 180 centimetres, whichever takes your fancy. And I do tend to sit quite far back. So I'm going to say 6-footers will be okay back here. The seats themselves are very comfortable. Let's get on to interior design a little bit more now. I've got kind of faux leather and Allen Cantara seat centres, and even the middle seat has a nice flat floor and a fairly sculpted shape. So if you have to sit 3 abreast, it should be all right. It's just that downside of only being able to fit the 2 child seats that I already mentioned. In terms of practicality back here, I've got window shades, which is lovely. I've got quite mediocre seat back pockets, air vents, 12-volt socket, a couple of USBs. There is actually a climate zone back here as well, and you can lock your children out of it if you don't want them dicking around with the aircon controls. Little cubby down there as well. Also, these seats slide backwards and forwards and do a little bit of reclining, though I'm already in the most reclined position currently, and I'm going to say that's kind of just normal seating position. So really they just sit up straighter, which I'm not sure what the benefit of that is. Shall we see how the front is? Up here is the other place I feel Peugeot has nailed the premium aesthetic. In fact, this i-Cockpit, as Peugeot refers to it, is really rather reminiscent of how BMW set up their screens these days. Let's start with materials. You've got this kind of lovely cloth on a lot of the top of the dash, light bar around which you can customize the color, the brightness, everything. The seats, again, centers in Alcantara with kind of vinyl outers, vegan leather, whatever you want to call it. Now, if you go high up in the cabin or low down, you will find some hard plastic. But you have to remember that this is so much cheaper than the premium rivals or even the Korean rivals. So I think that's perfectly acceptable. And the key thing is everywhere you actually have to touch, your experience is really, really nice. They've nailed the design. One thing they haven't nailed, buttons. They've come up with this second, well, I guess third screen technically, to swipe about for your settings. But the problem is, because it's all touch sensitive, if you linger somewhere for too long, you actually just open that part of the menu rather than sliding backwards and forwards. And overall, navigating the system isn't the simplest. Climate, I'm going to take as an example. You've got your main climate controls, but then you have a separate screen for your seats and steering wheel, and then another screen if you want to do anything with the rear climate controls, except you can't actually do anything with them from here. You can just lock them. Sat-nav, everything else is similarly just a bit clunky. However, Android Auto is wireless, and there's also a cable in this hidden cubby down here. If I push this button forwards, oh, look at the action on that. It's lovely stuff. That feels like a suitable time to move on to the other storage cubbies around the place. So yes, nice deep storage in here, 2 USB-C chargers and a 12-volt socket. You can lock your phone away in there, stop you from getting distracted. There's also a space on top of it where your passenger could rest their phone, for example. And then in here, hidden, there's a wireless charger, which is a little bit grippy. So that stops your phone from sliding out of the way. 2 cup holders, nice centre storage area as well that kind of bifolds, so your passenger could get in with you with your arm in place if needed. Glove box, not brilliant, classic French thing. There is a fuse box filling at least half of it, although it is felt lined, as are the door pockets, which means that when things are in there, they won't rattle about too much. The door pockets are nice and big. There's space for a bottle in there as well. And you do have a sunglasses holder, although the one in here has broken a little bit, so you have to kind of push the back of it to get it open. French car things, just French car things. Other controls, you've got kind of a button panel on the steering wheel and a button panel here, but they're all kind of interconnected. It's that VW style thing where you kind of push the whole thing at once and then things happen. So it is a real button, but it isn't. And my problem with that is on the steering wheel, your cruise controls, your minus is just above where you switch between normal and radar cruise. So you could just kind of turn your cruise control off when you're trying to slow down a little bit. You would get used to things like this. Same here, you do have the most important buttons shortcutted, so you could do your defrost and your rear screen, and you could turn your climate control off. From here you've got drive modes, hazards, rotary volume knob, thank goodness, and your handbrake. And then you've got the configurable i-Cockpit. You kind of push the ends of these stalks and you get various different displays if you want to kind of cycle through. They all are kind of fairly useful, but I would like to be able to customize it more than just kind of cycle through various different presets. They've clearly put a lot of work though into the design of the graphics and stuff. It all looks very, very nice. And actually all the switch gear that is in here is also very nice to use. Shall I find out though if it's very nice to drive? Let's start with the stats. So, this is front-wheel drive, single electric motor, 215 PS, 345 newton meters of torque, 2.3 tons, which means that the 0 to 62 time is 9.7 seconds. Not that quick for an electric crossover. However, I think perfectly quick enough for a 7-seater family vehicle. Along with that, we have a 73 kilowatt hour battery, capable, theoretically, of charging at 160 kilowatts, meaning it will recharge from 20 to 80% in 30 minutes. However, last night to do 20 to 80%, it took me 50 minutes, which is quite a lot longer, and that was on a 350 kilowatt hour charger, so it should have been capable of doing the maximum speeds. It was cold, so that will have an effect. And the other downside I want to bring up fairly early on, I've been driving this fairly sedately. I've not seen more than 3.5 miles per kilowatt hour out of it. And when you drive it just kind of at the speed limit, it's down at 3, which means even though it has a WLTP range of 310 miles, actually it's only going to do about 220 on motorway, which, you know, 70% of WLTP isn't terrible. That's not outside the realms of normal for an electric car, but there are ones out there who are closer to their claimed range. Let's get on to the good stuff though. This seat is so comfortable. It's fully manual, but I have adjustable lumbar support. I can jack it up, put it down, which is good. I like to sit nice and low, and then Peugeot like to do their i-Cockpit thing, which means the steering wheel has to be below the screen. So you have to set the steering wheel really rather low. Obviously, some people drive like that anyway. I know Rob likes to sit with his steering wheel nice and low. I like to sit with mine higher up, but I've dropped this down so that I can see, and actually, it's a very comfortable driving position. Not the best for engagement, but that's not really the point in here, and it is very comfortable. Also, all of the control inputs are nicely weighted for just being relaxing. There is feel in the steering, but it's fairly light. If you don't have the regen set quite aggressively, there is a bit of deadness in the brake pedal, but you would soon get used to it, and the car does stop reasonably. It's just clearly set up to be used with that most aggressive regen setting. You've got paddles though to do the regen, which I love to see when people implement that in a car. It makes it really easy to switch through the levels on the fly. You don't though get a one pedal driving mode, which I know some people like. I don't really mind personally. I don't really like them, so that's fine by me. Oh, it's another Peugeot. Hello, Peugeot. What you also get is a surprising amount of grip, which is nice because it is a big heavy vehicle. So you can be caught out because of the lightness of all of the inputs. You sort of forget how big and heavy this car is until you're really rather close to the corner, and then you have to lean on the brakes and swing it round. And it will just go round. I've not had any drama from it at all. Obviously, I've not driven it like a track car or anything. But it's just really nicely set up. So, good driving experience. Very, very premium feel. Not the most amazing electrical efficiency, but it's passable, especially considering the price. There is a version of this with more range. Currently, it's being sold as a limited launch edition, so I don't know if that powertrain is going to be continued to be offered. But it claims over 400 miles of WLTP range, 435, I believe, which means even with that 70% reduction, assuming that the loss is about the same as it is in here, you're actually going to get over 300 miles of range, which is really rather good. As I've mentioned, you can also get this with a range of petrol and hybrid power plants. I would like to test them in a separate video, although Stellantis don't always keep all of the powertrains on fleet, so we can't always do that, unfortunately, but hopefully I will do a video with one of them at some point. This is just really rather well resolved though. There are some things in here, some little niggles. I mean, the buttons bother me. It is slow. I mean, it's not slow for a 7-seater, but when you're used to modern electric cars, this feels rather lethargic. I don't think these are actually problems in the real world. I think these are me problems. So I'm mentioning them, but I'm also mentioning that I don't think you should take my word. You know, don't take it as like, oh, this is terrible. I can't do it. Harry said so. I'll have to go and buy a Ioniq 9. This is £54,000 as tested. £52,000 for this trim level. And actually, if you go down to kind of the base petrols, you can get into one of these for less than £40,000. And this is a huge, practical, premium car. It's sort of hard to argue with that value for money. ADAS is the other thing worth talking about because this is a modern vehicle. I want to give props to the speed sign recognition system. It hasn't really got confused while I've had the car. The one time it got confused is when I was quite close to a lorry in traffic and it read its kilometres speed limiter as a road sign and said that the speed limit was 80. But it's never punished me claiming that the speed limit is 20 when it's not. So I like that. I've also found the bongs and beeps, the lane departure, none of it is very intrusive. This is quite an easy car to live with. And there's just lots of practical, sensible bits in it. Things that you usually find in your Skodas or your Hyundais. Peugeot started implementing them as well as storming up market with their design and interiors. So you're kind of getting the best of all worlds. Really, to summarise, no, this is not an enthusiast's car. It's not an enthusiast drive. It is, though, a great family vehicle at what I consider to be a reasonable price across the board. So, with that in mind, let's throw back and do a full conclusion. So, that is the 5008 reviewed, and what am I thinking? Well, on the styling front, they've definitely hit the premium marks. The interior is fabulous. This exterior is lovely. And the price is good in the context of what 7-seat electric cars cost. This is a bargain. I do feel that some of the underpinning technology is a little bit flawed compared to competitors, but for that saving, this could make this a very worthy purchase. So if you're interested in a premium feeling but reasonably priced large family car, I thoroughly encourage you to go and check out a Peugeot e-5008. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe. If you go down into the description, find all the links to all our social medias. You'll also find 2 ways you can directly support the channel. We have memberships right here on YouTube, and we also have a merchandise store. You can find the link for that in the description as well. Please go and do one or all of those things, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.